Communicating change isn't easy. But you know what? It's also not hard if you do it right. Today I'm going to unpack the 3 things every leader needs to consider when communicating change to their team. And if you master these 3 things, your team will follow you through any change. Let's dive in. When communicating change of any type, most leaders focus too much on the information they want to convey and not enough on the experience they want others to have when they hear the information. Whether you're communicating change updates via a live session, a video call, or an email, you have to consider the mindset of those you are communicating with when they consume your message. Whether it's 5 people or 100, it doesn't really matter. Those hearing your updates are giving you their attention. Don't waste it. So first of all, you have a responsibility to be prepared, right? Communicating change to your team is an opportunity. I believe that every time you communicate, you have an opportunity to influence how people think and the actions they will take based upon what you share with them. There are 3 things every leader needs to consider when they're communicating change to their team. First, what do you want your audience to know? Right? Start with why. Why is there a need for a change? Hit that first. See, many leaders avoid the why conversation because it tends to be more of an emotional message and people are less comfortable with those. I recommend starting with the why first. What are the reasons for the change? What is the purpose of the change and why is it important? See, oftentimes many leaders attempt to communicate their rationale for the change, and when they do, they focus on why the change is important to them or the business, rather than why it's important to the people you're communicating to, your team. They overlook the critical element, which I call WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? If you want your team to actively support a change, you need to do a much better job of engaging them and why it matters to them. Once they understand why a change is required, you can then move into the details of the change. What change is happening? Are you announcing something new? Or are you giving a specific update on something you previously announced? If the latter, do they even remember what you previously mentioned a while back? It's probably worth taking the time to remind them of an earlier change that you announced earlier and how this update delivers on the next step of the process. If it's a new change, talk about what specifically is changing. Context is important. Lastly, when is it happening? Talk about timing. When is the change happening and who is involved? See, most leaders discuss what, when, and why a change is happening. I suggest reversing the order. Lead with why, then what, and close with when. Next is, what do you want your team to do? What specific actions, if any, do you want others to take? Do you have a specific ask of your team or specific members within your team? There should always be an action of some sort, even if it's simply asking for their support. If you don't have an action, then you fail to properly engage them in the why, as I mentioned earlier. Remember, they're tuning in to their own radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? How does the change you described affect them? And as a result, what do you want them to do? Without action, there is no momentum. What do you want your team to do? Okay, we just talked about what you want your team to know and what you want your team to do. Next is the one most leaders fail to consider, and if they do, they typically glance over it quickly. I want to emphasize that what I'm about to share with you is probably the most important thing you have to consider when communicating change. What do you want your audience to feel? How do you want them to feel? See, change management is all about emotions. Don't run from it. Instead, embrace it. How do you want them to feel? Acknowledge reality. When I coached basketball, one of the hardest speeches was after a tough loss. To earn the trust of my team, I never wanted to sugarcoat anything. I talked about feelings a lot. Hey, this is a tough loss. It's okay if you're upset. It's okay if you're pissed off. It's normal. What's not okay is staying that way. I reminded them that tomorrow was a new day, a new opportunity. Take tonight and feel sorry for yourself. But when tomorrow morning comes, remind yourself that you have yet another opportunity to begin again. Do you see how that in itself engages emotion? The same is true in business. Hey, I understand that some of you may not like this change, and that's okay. I also understand that some of you may think this change is long overdue, and that too is perfectly acceptable. Regardless of where you are right now, I want you to know that I respect it. What I want you to consider is what will happen if we don't change, if we don't adapt to what is changing all around us. I'm not saying this is going to be perfect, and I'm certainly not saying it's going to be easy. If we get something wrong in the process, trust me that I will have the courage to change it again. Success is about progress, not perfection. I took in consideration everyone's feedback, and I believe this is the direction that we need to move at this time. Whether you agree with it or not, my ask is for your support. I ask that you join me in helping to make this work. I also ask for your thought leadership and insight if you believe there are even more adjustments we need to make, right, in the future. Can you feel the difference in what I'm describing? I'm acknowledging the emotional side, and I'm leaning into what I want others to feel. In that example, I was describing a situation where I anticipated mixed response to a change, which is typically happens a lot. I could have very easily delivered a similar message if I wanted them to be thrilled about a change. For example, hey, I know this announcement is exciting, and you probably can't wait to tell your family and friends about the new policies and benefits we're rolling out. I'm too am wicked pumped. Trust me, I'm as excited as you are right now to be working at a fast, growing, very progressive company that is willing to lead the way in how employees really should be treated. Without question, this is amazing. However, I just want to remind you that humility is a virtue. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to feel a sense of pride in working here. My ask is simple, is to be humble. We can high five all day long amongst ourselves, but when the doors open, I ask that you exercise a little humility and gratitude. Not everyone is as fortunate as we are. Cool? Once again, you see what I just did? When communicating change, consider these three things. What do you want your audience to know? What do you want them to do? And most importantly, how do you want them to feel? If you want more tools, like the ones I just shared, I would love to buy you a copy of my book, Freedom to Experiment: How to Ignite a New Level of Energy, Focus, Momentum in Yourself and Your Team. I put the link in the description. Just follow the link in the description and I'll personally sign a copy for you. If you want to explore ways that you can elevate your leadership or explore ways that you can develop and retain the leaders on your team, I also included a link to schedule some time on my calendar. I would love, just absolutely love, to help you and your team champion growth for your business. Okay, if you like what I shared today, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below, and of course subscribe, because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. We'll talk to you soon.